Good afternoon and welcome to the Prospective Plantings and Grain Stocks briefing. My name is Lance Honig and I serve as chair of the Agricultural Statistics Board at NASS. This briefing is for the Secretary of Agriculture and other policymakers at USDA to better understand the content and context of today's reports. We're very pleased to have Dr. Seth Meyer, USDA's chief economist, join us as Secretary Designate today. We also welcome Dr. Cindy Nickerson, USDA's deputy chief economist. Before I turn things over to our presenter, I do have a few notes for our live streaming audience. These reports are considered principal federal economic indicator reports. The Office of Management and Budget provides specific guidance on how these important reports are to be released. OMB statistical policy instructs policymakers to refrain from making public comment regarding the content of these reports for 30 minutes within their release. Therefore, we will not be taking questions from the public during this briefing. NASS staff are available for phone or email questions, and NASS will host a social media event at 1:30 Eastern Time this afternoon. We strive to have everything presented at this briefing match the official record. However, should there be any discrepancy, always refer to the official published estimates. With that, I'll turn things over to Patrick Boyle. He is the chief of the NASS Crops Branch.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today, and welcome to those who are joining on the live stream as well. Before we dig into the numbers, as we normally do, I want to share some information on the data sources that were used to put together these reports. First, our operator survey, our farmer survey, the March Ag survey. Data collection started at the end of February and wrapped up in mid-March. It included just under 73,000 samples, and we asked producers about their planting intentions for the 2025 crop year. The survey also included questions about grain stocks and storage capacity on their operations. This map shows how those 73,670 samples were distributed by state. For off-farm stocks, during a similar time window, we surveyed right around 7,900 elevators and commercial storage facilities and captured stocks and capacity information from them as well. This graphic shows the data collection periods for our March Ag survey and our June Acreage survey in yellow and orange there on the left and right. Those lines in the middle, that's the typical corn and soybean planting progress. So this shows the relationship between those data collection windows and when corn and soybeans are typically planted in the United States. Again, in 2025, we gathered producer intentions ahead of planting in March, and we'll follow up in June to true up our numbers to what actually went into the ground. Now onto the data. First up, I've got a couple of slides looking at the combined acreage of the 22 principal crops listed in that blue box at the bottom of the screen. What this does, it gives us an overall look at how crop acreage will be used in 2025. You can see only a small decrease compared to last season, down less than 0.5% or just under 1.3 million acres. Also, you can see the top 5 states in terms of planted acreage and a comparison to last season. Next, a quick look at how those principal crop acreage changes evolve over time. You can see that this is the first estimate for 2025, and it is in line with recent totals. Year-over-year changes are the result of a variety of factors, including weather events such as droughts and hurricanes, late and prevented planting in the spring, and disaster declarations like opening up CRP for haying. These are just a few examples of the many variables that attribute to year-over-year fluctuations. Here's a map showing the principal crop totals by state. The way this slide is laid out, the top number is the total acreage. The bottom number is the percent change from last year. States shaded in blue are showing an increase from last year, while states shaded in red are showing a decrease. The deeper the color, the greater the change. The states shaded in gray, and then there are a couple of them up there, are unchanged from last year. This slide shows an annual comparison of intentions versus final totals for the last 10 years. The mixture of what is planted can change and likely will change now through the end of the planting season. But as you can see, the grand total of acres that get planted is typically less than 1% more than the March intentions. We will occasionally get years with late and prevented planting, and those are shown there with those bars that are dipping well into the negative. Now we'll dig into some commodity-specific data. First up is corn. Planted acreage is expected to total 95.3 million acres. That's up 5.2% or more than 4.7 million acres from last year. If realized, it would mark the third highest corn acreage since 1944. You can see that all 5 of the top corn states are showing increased planting intentions this year. Here's how that acreage level looks compared to recent years. The orange line on the top is showing planted acreage, and the yellow line on the bottom shows harvested acreage each year. 95.3 million acres would mark the largest planted acreage number since 2013. And here's a map similar to the principal crops maps that I shared earlier, except this map shows a breakdown of corn planting intentions by state. Again, a little orientation on what the numbers and colors mean on this map. The top number is the 2025 intentions, and the bottom number is the percent change from last year. If you see a pound sign next to the top number, that represents a record high. States shaded in blue are showing an increase from last year, while states shaded in red are showing a decrease. The deeper the color, the greater the change. If realized, we will have a number of states plant a record high number of acres to corn, including Idaho, Nevada, North Dakota, Oregon, and South Dakota. Finally, the last slide for corn acreage, you'll look at how today's estimate compares to the sample of published pre-report industry expectations. Now, the way this slide is laid out, each of those blue dots represents an individual industry member's forecast of corn acreage. The red square represents NASS's estimate. As you can see, while expectations were for increased corn acres in 2025, today's estimate appears to be on the higher end of what many had predicted. Now on to planted acreage intentions for soybeans. As you would expect, with a significant increase in corn acres, it appears that producers intend to plant fewer soybean acres in 2025. In fact, 4.1% or 3.56 million fewer acres than last season. Here's a quick look at soybean planted acreage over the last 10 seasons. While we are down from last year, 83.5 million acres would still mark the 7th highest planted acreage on record. And you'll see the other 6 years are all on this chart. Here's a breakdown of soybean acreage intentions by state. Again, the top number is 2025 planting intentions. The bottom number is the percent change from last year. 2 states, New York and Ohio, are reporting record high intentions. This graphic is very similar to the one I shared a moment ago for corn. Again, the blue dots are the industry member estimates, while the red square is NASS's 2025 soybean intentions estimate, right in the middle of the expectations for soybeans. And before I move on to the other commodities, I do have a couple of slides here looking at combined corn and soybean acres. Like the others I shared, this map shows this year's combined corn and acreage intentions with a comparison to last season. At just under 179 million acres, combined corn and soybean planting intentions are up 0.7% compared to 2024. Finally, here's a quick look at those combined corn and acreage intentions numbers compared to the pre-report forecasts. On the high side, but within the range of expectations. Next up is cotton. Planted acreage expected to be down 11.8% or 1.3 million acres compared to last season. All 5 of the top cotton acreage states reported decreased planting intentions. If realized, 9.87 million acres would be the lowest level since 2015. A lot of red on this map representing year-over-year decreases. Louisiana and New Mexico reported record low intentions for cotton. This is the last cotton acreage slide, the industry expectations. 9.9 million acres is on the low side of the pre-report estimates. Next up, winter wheat acres. This is our second look at winter wheat planted acres for the 2025 crop. Acreage is down 2.3% from December survey and 0.2% compared to last season. Now a quick look at winter wheat acres over the past 10 seasons. That 33.3 million acres appears to be within the line of recent years, in line with recent years. And here's a map of winter wheat acreage by state, a couple of record lows to report in California and Virginia. As I mentioned a moment ago, this is NASS's second planted acreage estimate for the 2025 season. It appears that today's estimate is on the low end of pre-report expectations. Switching gears now to other spring wheat, acreage is expected to be down 5.7% or 605,000 acres from last season. North Dakota and Montana, the two largest spring wheat states, both reported decreased spring wheat planting intentions. If realized, 10 million acres would mark the lowest other spring wheat planted acreage number since 1970. And here's a breakdown by state. As I mentioned a moment ago, significant decreases in North Dakota and Montana bring that national total down. And the industry expectations coming in within the range, but on the low end. Now a quick look at durum wheat, also expected to be down compared to last year, down 2.4% or 49,000 acres. And here's how that stacks up with recent seasons. North Dakota and Montana, they drive the bus on durum wheat production. The significant drop in intentions in Montana was offset by an increase in North Dakota. Finally, the industry expectations, the NASS number is squarely within the range of pre-report acreage forecasts for durum wheat. Now I'll quickly run through some of the other commodities. Record low barley acreage, down 2.4% from last year. Canola intentions are down 6.7% from last year, but that's still the second highest level on record. Chickpea acreage is up 11.8% and the highest level since 2018. Dry edible beans planted acreage intentions is down 4.1% from last year's record high. Dry peas planting intentions down 8.3% compared to 2024. Flaxseed acreage intentions are up 25% from last year. However, that remains at historically low levels. All hay acreage is expected to be down 1.8%. However, this can change rapidly depending on drought situations and the availability of CRP for haying. Lentil planting intentions are up 17.5%, with Montana reporting record high intentions. Oats are down 1.6% and a new record low if realized. And peanut acreage intentions are up 8.3%. This would mark the fourth year in a row of increased peanut acreage. Rice acreage intentions are down slightly from last season. Sorghum intentions are up with both Texas and Kansas, the largest sorghum states, reporting increases. Sugar beets at just over 1.13 million acres, also up compared to 2024. Sunflowers expecting a big increase from last year's record low. Even with the 49% increase though, 1.07 million acres would mark the fourth lowest total on record. Finally, tobacco acres at 167,000. That's down 0.5% from last year and a new record low. Earlier in the presentation, I had a few slides talking about the 22 principal crops that we use. We keep an eye on the overall total acreage across the country. These next few slides provide a little bit more detail on how individual crops rank in terms of acreage, as well as year-over-year changes. You can see on this first slide here, this is just overall planted acreage, corn and soybeans at the top of the chart, and it goes down from there in terms of acres planted, planting intentions. This next slide shows as a percentage which crops are expected to make gains or losses in 2025. Sunflowers are expected to make the biggest gains percentage-wise, while cotton is showing the largest losses percentage-wise. And you may have guessed the next slide, very similar, except this one, instead of a percent change, shows the actual acreage. You can see corn and sunflowers at the top, and soybeans and corn at the bottom. Now we'll switch gears a little bit and run through some stocks numbers. For each commodity, the slides will look pretty similar, so we'll be able to buzz through them pretty quickly. First up is all wheat stocks. Total March 1 stocks are up 13.6% or 148 million bushels compared to the same time last year. On-farm stocks are up 12.9%, while off-farm stocks are up 13.8%. Now I'll look at how the March 1 wheat stocks estimate fits in historically. The way this slide is laid out, those blue vertical bars represent the beginning supply each season, and the horizontal lines represent the 4 quarterly stocks estimates that we make throughout the year. You can see the March line there in gray, indicating a total stocks of 1.24 billion bushels. December to February disappearance was 332 million bushels, down 0.2% compared to the same window last year. Shouldn't be any real big surprises here with the wheat stocks number, well within the range of pre-report predictions. Now on to corn stocks. Total stocks just over 8.15 billion bushels are down 2.4% from 2024. On-farm stocks down 11.4%, while off-farm are up 11.5%. This chart, very similar to the one we just saw for wheat. The gray line, again, is March stocks. December to February disappearance is 3.92 billion bushels, up 2.8% compared to 2024. Again, all corn stocks for March at 8.15 billion bushels appears to be in line with expectations. Moving on to soybeans, total stocks at just over 1.91 billion bushels are up 3.5% compared to last year. On-farm stocks are down 6.1%, while off-farm stocks are up 13.3%. Onto the chart showing the numbers for the past 10 seasons. Again, the gray line there is March. December to February disappearance is 1.19 billion bushels, up 3% compared to the same time last year. Similar story here to corn for the industry expectations. Don't expect any real surprises there on soybean stocks. Rice stocks on March 1st, total stocks were down 3.6% compared to last year. On-farm stocks are up 12%, while off-farm stocks are down 6.5%. You can see off-farm stocks made up 82% of the total stocks. And here's that comparison to the past 10 seasons. December to February disappearance was just over 39 million hundredweight. That's up 13.2% compared to the previous year. And a quick look at stocks for a few other commodities. Barley stocks are down 7.8% compared to last March. Durum wheat stocks are up 6.4%, while oats are down 19.6%. Sorghum stocks are up significantly compared to last season. And last but not least, all sunflower stocks are down 51.5% from last year and a record low for March. Now, we should note that 2024 sunflower production was the lowest level since 1976. Before I wrap up, here's a quick look at a few of our upcoming reports. Tomorrow, April 1st, we've got our CARE reports. On the 9th, we'll provide our updates to our historical track records on crop production reports. On the 10th, we'll be back here for the April crop production report. And in the second half of the month, we've got cattle on feed, hemp, ag prices, as well as 2022 census data for American Samoa and Guam. As Lance mentioned earlier, coming up at 1:30 Eastern today, we'll be hosting a session of Stat Chat on X, where we'll take questions and share additional information on today's reports. And just want to put in a quick plug for our upcoming USDA data users meeting. This is a great opportunity to hear from and ask questions of the many government agencies who create and work with agricultural data. This spring's event will take place on April 29th, and will be 100% virtual. It is free and open to all. You do have to register though to participate. I'd encourage you to check out the NASS website for more information and to get registered. As always, the full reports are available on our website, and I thank everyone for joining us. Thank you to those on the live stream as well.